Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Merrell Off Grid on Topic workshop. I think I'm going to start the session with some thank yous. Firstly, I would like to say thank you to Steve and Jackie, who run the festival, who are around here somewhere, for giving us the great opportunity to be here today. Thank you to the Merrell guys for coming up with this great topic and putting the whole thing together. Thank you to my panelists, who you're going to be hearing a lot more from over the next hour than from me. And finally, thank you to you guys for coming. I realized that you did have a choice of things that you could go to. So we really appreciate you coming along to this one. And we're going to do our best to make it worth your while. This is a little bit different to what we normally do, because it's both a live event with audience interaction and it's a recorded podcast, which makes it a little bit of a tricky dichotomy. But I think what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce the subject for a little bit and give it some context. Then I'm going to ask some questions to my panelists, and then later on in the session I'm going to open it up for audience Q&A, and hopefully when it comes around to the podcast, it will all be edited up and it will sound pretty smooth. It is an interactive session, so when it comes to the audience Q&A, you really get out what you put in. So please do put your hand up and ask us all the difficult questions. That's what we are here to answer. I think it's probably a good time to do some intros. I'm happy to start with that. My name is Dan Macaulay. I'm the founder of a marketing consultancy called Brandwave, which I set up nearly 20 years ago. And we only work with sports brands. We work with a lot of different sports brands all around the world on their marketing strategy. But actually, beyond that, a lot of what we do is to do with behavior change, using sport as a catalyst of positive change. So a lot of different charities, including our charity partner, the wonderful Youth Adventure Trust. Put your hand up there, Lou, who we've worked with for a long time. And we say we understand your target market because we are your target market, which is a kind of a cheesy way of saying that we love doing stuff in the outdoors, and therefore, we choose to work in it. So you never really work a proper day in your life. I'm now going to give you guys the opportunity just to sort of introduce yourself. Marlon, do you want to go first?
Okay. Good afternoon. Hello. My name is Marlon Patrice. I'm the founder of We Go Outside To, a Birmingham-based charity. And we're all about encouraging in the city to go out into nature. We do walks, we do retreats, and it's all about healing and so on.
I'm Emily, one half of Soft Girls Who Hike, and we are an online community. Our motto is hiking doesn't have to be hard, so we're trying to encourage people to be softer and kinder with themselves in the outdoors.
Yep, and I'm Lucy, the other half of Soft Girls Who Hike. And we're on social media, and we have a soft hiking club as well on Facebook. And again, we're just encouraging people to be softer with themselves, and it's about mindset in hiking, not just the activity.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Johnny. Jonathan Quint. I'm Product and Marketing Director for Merrell. And this is my second time at the Kendal Festival, which I absolutely love. And we're staying a little way away and driving in just through the countryside, dodging the snow and the ice. It just puts a smile on my face. So it's a great place to be. And I've had to, Dan wanted me to introduce myself. And my biggest achievement was actually last night. Was part of the team that won the Gore-Tex quiz. So we were really pleased about that. So I'm carrying my medal and wearing it whenever I can. That's my best achievement so far.
Is that like your lucky feather, is it?
I hope so. Yeah.
A round of applause, please, for Johnny there. I was also a part of that pub quiz team. Even though I didn't actually answer any questions, I do have a medal. So I'm just going to spend a minute or two expanding a bit on the theme and giving a little bit of context before we get into the panel discussion. This off-grid, on-topic platform that we created, talking about opening up the outdoors. The background to that, I guess, is something that I hear talked about in the sports and the outdoor industry all the time by people who share the same passions that I do, and that is sport as a catalyst for positive change, that sport and the outdoors is essentially a good thing. And sport can change the world, sport can change lives on many different levels. Obviously, physically, sport is amazing, you know. It's preventative for illness. You know, England is the most inactive nation in Europe, you know, with huge levels of type 2 diabetes, with heart disease, etc. You know, sport is fantastic for making people fitter and healthier and living longer. And I think most of the people here at the festival agree on that. But one of the elements that gets talked about a lot less is mental health. And listening to some of the speakers that I have over the past 24 hours, so much of it is about mental health, and how sport can be a catalyst for positive change with that. But then, you know, there's also sport as a catalyst for positive change societally. And there's such amazing evidence and case studies here at the festival for sport being the enabler, you know, just the same way that music or art is to bring people together who wouldn't otherwise to be together and bring down barriers. And then sport as a business, you know, a lot of us here are lucky enough to work in sport for a living, and sport can be a catalyst for positive change. And I guess that's what we are here to talk about. Me personally, I studied marketing and psychology, and I've always been like a lifelong student of societal behavior, of motivational psychology, of behavior change. And when we think of those kind of things, you know, we think of like, you know, who controls changes in society. Historically, it's pretty big institutions, right? It's countries, it's governments, it's religions, it's schools. But the world has really, really changed over the past few years. And you know, I always think about behavior change. It goes in a line, right? And then you get short periods of rapid change throughout history with like things like the introduction of the internet, social media. And we've just lived through one of the largest restrictions of human movement in history. And there's a lot of changes happening. And one of the changes that I believe we're seeing happening is that brands, you know, have these huge followings, you know, in some instances, larger followings than the governments and the politicians that I referred to who previously held the power for creative change. And through that, you know, brands now have a platform. Brands don't just sell products anymore. You know, you see a lot of brands, they have a voice. And actually, as someone pointed out on a previous one of these that I did, brands actually, you know, probably have a responsibility as well to affect change. Brands can and should change societies for the better. And, you know, I talk about opening up the outdoors, and one of the expressions that gets used a lot within the, you know, what they say is the incumbent audience of the outdoors is pale, male, and stale. And I say that in full knowing that I'm a middle-aged white man, and probably pretty representative of what the target market of the outdoors, you know, has historically been. But what about the future? You know, how can brands change that, and how should they change that? How can they use their platform to change that? And I think, you know, two of the things that we're going to discuss is the Merrell Hiking Club and also the Merrell Fund, where instead of just making profit, which a lot of brands do, it's like, how do you actually reinvest that to reach markets that haven't been targeted before, And ultimately, you know, that's going to benefit everyone because you're going to sell more product to new consumers. And what can other brands learn from these kinds of initiatives? So accessibility, inclusion, opening up the outdoors, sport as a catalyst for positive change. These are our themes. This is what we're here to talk about. And with that, I think I'm going to hand over to you guys. Marlon, I think start with you. I just want to give you a bit of an opportunity just to tell us your story. Okay. And then, you know, also then tell us about the project you started in a bit more detail. Okay.
So I could say, like, I had awakening, like, in 2013, 2014, like, I just woke up and was like, I'm going to start running. And then it was, I started to run, and then it was a thing like, I'm going to, a race came up, and I was like, I'm going to enter that race. It was a Palestine marathon, which was organized by Rights to Movement. And yeah, I did that race, I did that marathon, but then also, like, I joined the running club as well. So, like, while joining the running club, I also had the opportunity to do, like, work with, like, the local council, Birmingham City Council, where I was, like, part of an initiative which was, like, to encourage, like office workers, just the public to move, and, like, it was all about health and well-being. Also, I was doing a lot of races as well in between that, where, like, I didn't really actually notice it at the time that, you know, I was only the person of color at these events and stuff. And yeah, I just kept on pursuing it and just running and stuff. And then, like, fast forward, like, to 2020, I started We Go Outside Too, this charity organization, all about, like, going outdoors. The reason for starting this was, like, my son passed away. He got stabbed, and he was, like, a teenager. His name was Nazir Patrice. And from there, it was just, yeah, I just kept it going. Like, I was using it, like, to help me, like, going outdoors in nature and, like, just bringing people together at this time, because at this time there was, like, you know, there was talks of lockdown, and so I was trying to, like, just encourage hope, you know, in this time, and, like, just, like, work together on this. So that's how I actually started. Yeah.
That's great, thanks. I'm going to come back and I'm going to ask you some more questions about how that kind of manifests. But ladies, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah. So Emily and I lived together, and during the pandemic, we felt like we needed to get out. So we started discovering what was around us and what green spaces are around us. And then as the lockdown started to lift, we realized that, you know, hikes are accessible by train. So we started researching what's around us and which hikes. And then we did a few group hikes and realized we didn't quite fit in. We felt like people were doing it for the competition and not actually enjoying it or being soft with themselves. They were trying to reach the peak in a certain time. So we just felt like it wasn't for us. So we started doing our own hikes. We started filming them and just showing people what trails are out there. And then we came up with the term soft hiking. And it just it kicked off. We hit 10 billion views on TikTok.
Can you just say that number again, please?
10 billion views on TikTok. It was CNBC that reported that number. We had no idea that we hit that. And people just resonated with the term. So soft hiking means that hiking doesn't have to be hard. And it's about being soft with yourself in the outdoors and not pushing yourself. It's about taking a break if you need to and not pushing through, appreciating the view, having a snack, actually eating on a hike and not just running ahead. So yeah, people resonated with it, and it's helped a lot of people.
Yeah, I think I was one of those people, like, growing up, I grew up in quite an outdoorsy family, very working class, but we went on, like, a sort of lot of, like, caravanning, camping holidays. And my mum and dad were great, but they were very sort of regimented with it, and it was very like hard hiking. So I think when we kind of discovered this term, or when I met Lucy and we started doing these hikes together, I was like, oh, it can be like this. It can be soft. You can be kind to yourself. You don't have to rush. You can enjoy it. And I think that I didn't find much enjoyment with that rushing ahead. So I think it's just important to have language for these sorts of things so that people can say, you know, I resonate with that. Like, we've had a few people online, haven't we, that have said, I didn't know there was a term for it. And I think that's so important. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. And Johnny, if you could just tell us a little bit about your background, and for anyone who hasn't heard of Merrell, explain what you guys do as well.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, what you were saying, I'm probably going to, you know, I obviously knew I was going to do a little introduction here, and I'm probably going to change my answer actually from what you said, because sport has meant a lot to me. I've been involved in sports since I was 8, 9, 10, whether that was football or running, and it's really shaped my life in, I'm going to say, a relatively trivial way compared to these guys, but sport has introduced me to my life and has taken me to university and has shaped my career. And I think when you talk, we talk more about mental health since pandemic, I think, and you know, when we were all locked up for a while. But I've got a trivial example of that is when I'm at home and things are, you know, every now and then you get a little bit tense, and if I haven't been for a run, my wife will look at me and go, you need to go for a run. Because I'm a better person when I've gone out and done my sport and you know, been for a run. So those, I think, are things that you know, that I recognise amongst myself, and I'm very grateful for what it is. And so I you know, went to Loughborough University, you know, lots of sporting involvement there, and I ended up working for Saucony, which is a running brand, part of the same family of brands as Merrell. I'm now moved over to Merrell in the last few years, and so Merrell is you know, the biggest outdoor footwear brand in the world, and you know, I feel quite responsible now. Dan's given us the big build up that brands have that opportunity to do something. So, but what Merrell stands for, our brand purpose, is getting people into the air, is sharing the power of being outside with everyone, and so that for everyone bit at the end is something that we try and work on. And again, it's not entirely, you know, I don't want to sit up here and say we're doing it for the right thing. The point of purpose is purpose. It's about if we get more people into the outdoors, then we can sell more shoes. So there's a two-sided benefit to that as well. But both, you know, a commercial benefit, but also, you know, doing what we feel is right. So as part of that, we have the Merrell Hiking Club and the Merrell Fund. So the Merrell Hiking Club is an organisation is a project that started in 2021, been going for nearly 4 years now. And with marketing, you know, a lot of these projects start from an insight, and an insight we had was that women were over 60% less likely to go into the outdoors and to do the activities that they wanted to compared to men. And so we wanted to explore what that was. So we actually have a great agency working for us called Female Narrative. They're entirely women agency, and they looked into that for us, and we wanted to find a way that we could, you know, take away some of those barriers. And those barriers were relatively simple things in many cases that they didn't, you know, women didn't feel comfortable going out there. They didn't have someone to go and hike with. They perhaps thought it needed to be, you know, really regimented and going to, you know, amazing places and going to the top of the mountain. And so the hiking club was set up to try and take away some of those barriers, and it's developed so that it's both a real community, an in-person community. This year we've had over 30 hikes across Europe, which are between, you know, groups of between 30 and 50 going out from, you know, from our offices, or going out from retailers, or just going out, you know, from local parks. It doesn't have to be anywhere particularly extreme. And then also online communities. So there are Facebook groups in each of our major European nations that people are members of those groups, and they can be places that hikes are organised, that information is shared. One of the other barriers was having the knowledge to going out there and feeling concerned that, well, what happens when I go out there and something goes wrong? And so both the knowledge from the Facebook group or from the leaders that we have, our leaders are called Trailblazers, and Emily and Lucy are two Trailblazers from the UK, and we have them around the world. So it's that's how we've trying to live little bit of that purpose, and now the Merrell Hiking Club has developed and grown, and it's almost sort of self-perpetuating now because those groups inspire each other and put on hikes that people can go out and enjoy.
That's really good, thank you. I think you've always been really clear with me than what your purpose is beyond creating great products and selling them, and making sure that comes to fruition and manifests. And I think you've actually given me a really nice sort of lead up to my next point, which is about purpose. And it's such a big word these days, purpose. You hear about purpose-driven brands. There's a chap that I follow called Simon Sinek, who has got a great quote. He said, people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. And people talk a lot about their why, which is just another fancy word for, your purpose, for your ideology. But, I'd like to put that question to my other panelists now, really, what is your why? What is your purpose? What is it that you're actually trying to achieve? Marlon, I'm going to fire that one at you.
What is my why? I guess my why is it's great for my mental well-being, and also it gets me out of bed as well, because during the time of my loss, it was something to focus on and just bring people together, and just unplug from the inner city, and just be present, you know what I mean, and just that's my why and my purpose, to keep going and just to keep doing it and discovering new places, and also just continue doing what we're doing, and you know what I mean. So that's my why.
Okay, I'm just going to stay with Marlon for a second on that, because obviously you do that for yourself, and I can understand how that works, but there's something more than that as well, because you've decided that you want to do that for other people, and I've listened to some of your podcasts. I understand that you received quite a big award here last year for your work, and some of the things you've talked about, you've talked about taking your shoes off. How important that is. You said it's important people put a house plant in their house. You said you try to put your hands in the soil every day. This is all very strange. Can you just explain this to us? How does that tie in? What is it that you're actually trying to get across to, obviously for yourself, but what's the benefit for these kids that you're taking outdoors? What are you showing them?
It's just a thing I feel like it's all healing, in terms of us, because when we're in the city and, we very obstructed, we don't really see, because there's buildings and all this. So when we're outside in open spaces, we can see what's in front of us, and it's a thing it's for me, personally, I have to do this every day. It's my ritual, and I'm just sharing what works for me, basically. And it could work for others as well. If they continue to keep doing this, it will help them also. So this is the reasons why I do it. It's just tools, to navigate through life, and just stay connected, because these things are lost as well. They've been lost in the mix. These things what we used to do, we were more connected with the land and all this, but it was lost because we're there just chasing in the city and all that. So just bringing it back to like the source.
I think you articulated it really nicely, and I've heard this before. You know, when people talk about tools, it's things like tools like being able to socialize with other people you don't know, tools like resilience that you learn through this kind of thing, and I'm going to put it to you girls as well now as well on a slightly deeper level. You know, I think Marlon talked about, you know, why and purpose and it being healing. Like with you guys, like how does it make you feel, and what is it? What feeling? You know, forget the physical part of it. What feeling are you trying to give to other people?
I think it's just a feeling of calm, and that's something that I'm always searching for. Like I suffer with anxiety, and I've been through a lot personally. I lost my mum 9 years ago, and I find that spending time in the outdoors, I'm kind of working through my grief and things that I've repressed, and just connecting with her as well, because she was quite an active person. Obviously, we went on a lot of active holidays together, but she was a runner, very healthy person. So it's a bit of a shock for me when she passed away so suddenly, because I just thought, you know, life is short. We've got to get out there. We've got to see things. We've got to do these things. And I think it's just encouraging other people as well to know that they have the confidence to do it themselves as well, and that it can be very healing for you.
I think as well for people to feel validated and seen. I think a lot of people at this festival here today know about this festival. A lot of people that follow us won't even know about this festival. They won't even feel like they belong in these spaces. And I think it's really easy to forget how people need to see people up there like them, or at least telling their story. So I think it's really important that people feel like they belong in outdoor spaces too.
And that, like, you can find a way as well. Because a lot of the time we kind of promote taking public transport, or you know, finding things secondhand as well. It can be very expensive, and there can be a lot of barriers, like financially. So I think it's finding ways, it's finding solutions and offering that to people.
I'm actually going to, you raised a really good point there, and it's one that comes up time and again. If you're at a festival like this, you already know, you know, chances are you've already been out there, you know, you've tasted the sugar, right? And it's so easy to assume that everyone else in the world, you talked about representation, you know, if I can see it, I can be it, but that's not there, and other things are not there. Can you talk me through the barriers? You know, you referenced them briefly. What are those barriers?
So, I mean, top one is money. People, not everyone has a car, so it's making people realise you can get public transport, or even finding spaces in your local area. Emily lives in Manchester, and there are spaces there. You don't have to be getting out to a hike on a mountain. You can find green spaces. I think other barriers, I mean,
I guess it's just like knowledge as well, and like knowing where these places are and that it's possible for you to get there. Yeah, just self-confidence as well. I think for a lot of people, it's like not, if you see somebody else doing it, you're like, oh, okay, like I know where it is now, so I can find it. It's just representing.
physical barriers as well. We have people who follow us who are in a wheelchair, for example. And I think that's where the words are really important, because someone in a wheelchair, this is not my words, obviously, this is theirs, they don't feel they can walk, but they feel they can hike. And I think that's why soft hiking is a nice word, because it's not physical, it's a mindset thing.
Yeah. We often mention as well, if there is an accessible route somewhere, we'll always like put it in our videos just to make people aware, because sometimes you just don't know, do you?
How much is ability a barrier? You know, I mean, for me, I walk around and I just see the same image again and again. It's men who conquer mountains, you know, and I apologize to any Brandon here who's got this image, but it's generally, you know, someone standing like this on the top of a mountain, you know, which I'm not at that level, and I see a lot of the messaging that you guys are putting out there is really the antithesis of that. So, is that because it's a barrier?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's like you always think you have to look a certain way, you have to be a certain size, you have to have a certain ability in order to get out there. But it's like, as well, you don't have to climb to the summit. You can just take in the view from wherever. So it's not, there's no pressure. I think that's the thing. There's a lot of pressure on people to be a certain way.
Okay, I'm gonna pass it back to Marlon if that's okay. So many of the the most incredible outdoor areas in the UK are around the cities, and yet the statistics show that so few people go outdoors and experience. Can you sort of elaborate on that a little bit as to the barriers, as to why at least the kids that that you're helping don't go outdoors, don't want to, or can't?
What, locally or?
Yeah. Locally or nationally, either.
Yeah, barriers. In terms of barriers, like just not having the right equipment and not knowing where to start as well. What other barriers could there be?
How much of it is like the peer group? If none of your friends do this.
Yeah, even that as well. Like just like leading by example as well is another one as well. But like having groups like ourselves, like to like take the lead and like actually do it. But like from this as well, like other groups have like stemmed from We Go Outside too as well. But yeah, I can't think of any really barriers, but like also transportation is one of them as well.
So how do you get around that?
So
you say it's a barrier. How is it a barrier, firstly, and then how do you get around it?
Well, we wanna like have meeting points, and then just have the people meet, and then we just go to the actual location. But we also need to recce as well. But yeah. We've managed to do it at the same time, but like at the same time, like we I feel like if you want to do something, you will do it. Like in my
Yeah, I've heard it referred to as with or without you energy.
Yeah,
it's like
we're
going to
you
do
gotta
this.
have a catalyst.
Yeah.
There has to be a catalyst for this to actually happen. You know what I mean?
100%. And I think before we come back to you guys and talk more about the solution and actually how you guys show up and what's involved in the initiatives you do, I just want to ask Johnny quickly, because you guys have so many different ways that the Merrell Hiking Club, I think you were saying like the 30 different ones that you've done, and then I know all the different charities that you guys support with the Merrell Fund, and they're so different, both in terms of demographic, both in terms of psychographic and geographics. Are there common themes that you guys come up again and again?
I think that we've used the word barriers, and I think something that so we have the Merrell Fund, which was we put a proportion of our budget each year aside for non-profit organisations to apply, tell us what their projects are, and we support some of them where we can, and that it is quite. Again, I'm obviously the demographic that Dan mentioned at the start. I'm pale, male, and stale as well, but it is quite revealing to hear what those barriers might be that perhaps not everyone else understands. For maybe for me, I can jump in the car and drive to the Peak District, and we can have a nice family stroll in there around there, and we probably take that for granted. And then the applications that we get are usually based on organisations who are helping people who don't have that good fortune, or they have those barriers. So whether that was the hiking club with facilitating groups of women to go out, or we have such a wide variety. They could be charities working with organisations from inner city that don't have that transportation. We've helped buy a minibus for an organisation so they can actually take those groups of people from a city into the outdoors. It's that, I want to say that's simple, because it's something that it's very simple to take for granted. We've had an application recently for people with impaired sight who need to be able to map read so they can get out into the outdoors. What are the ways that you can break down those barriers? So those, quite often the theme running through the applications is barriers, but barriers that can often be taken for granted, and it can be quite eye-opening to see. They can have relatively simple solutions. The amounts of money that we could be giving away could be a few £100. It doesn't have to be a huge amount. We get applications for huge amounts for European projects that take groups to in different cities around the region, but some of them are just so simple, and it makes it relatively easy to help. So I think that's what comes across to me is sometimes those barriers are just they shouldn't even be there, and it doesn't take much to get them out of the way. There are others that do, absolutely. There are others that it's much harder for, but those are the ones that really stick in my mind. And
I think part of the challenge of that is assumption. It's just assuming that they're not there. And I know I've heard you a lot talk about, great campaigns are based on great insights. And in the past, you've told me a lot of different, facts and figures. And I said, this is the stuff that we didn't know. And that is why we're doing this. We're not just plucking it out of the air.
And we're learning from these applications. Yeah. It is... I'm guilty of that, for taking some of those things for granted. And you learn from those applications to think, well, this is a consideration. This is another group of people that can get into the outdoors, but this is what's stopping them.
Okay, so we've talked about sport as a catalyst for change. We've talked about a sense of purpose and being purpose-driven and how important that is. And we've talked about what the challenge is, what is the problems that we're trying to overcome. So I guess my next question then, and Marlon, I'll start this with you, is how does this manifest what you're doing? Is it just a bunch of people walk up to the top of the hill and that's the end of it? Or is there something deeper to it? Or what are the activities involved? What does it look like?
Activities, it could be simply tree planting. We could do the tree planting where we've done tree planting before, and also beach cleans as well. I'm
going to stop you on tree planting because I listened to one of your podcasts. Can you explain the tree planting in the new year?
It's basically just to bring in good karma. So we done a tree planting workshop where we was working alongside Peak District National Park as well, so we done that as well. So we just and also it was a thing family bonding time as well. So a lot of families came along on this as well. So it brought people together, families together. So this was just bringing in the new year with the planting seeds, it was just a thing like this.
Yeah, I've heard you talk in the past about setting your objectives for the year, and it's quite a lot to it, rather than just the physical act being...
setting intentions.
Setting intentions, that was it, yeah. And then I've read about, poetry writing and photography and...
This is it, just exploring different ways how we can just, work with nature and also art as well alongside it, so just bringing it all together. There's all, just being creative with it and, just... weaving and winding,
I've heard you say that nature is I paraphrase, but I think it was nature is the greatest form of art. What do you mean by that?
In terms of when you just the simplest things, like the trees and the leaves, the formation, and you see it all and take it in, and it's all art, you know what I mean?
And I think, I've heard you use the term mindfulness before, and it being so much more than actually a physical thing. And this is something I think that anybody who does these kind of things can resonate with, that it's as much, if not more, about the mindfulness and the feelings that you get.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to put that to you guys. is it just about social media? Because I know you guys have a huge following. Is it just a hike to a top of a hill, to get that photo at the top, or what's it all about? How does it show up?
I think it shows up in it's changing people's lives. Really, you say it like that, but it's like it has changed people's lives, and we've seen it. And there was a lovely lady that we met at Merrell Hiking Club. She came to our first hike, and she was actually so nervous that she was sick before she got there because she was so scared about meeting new people and socialising. But when she got there, she really threw herself in, and then we met her the following year for another hike, and she was like a different person. She was doing different things every weekend, lots of social activities, hiking, what else was she doing? Just loads of different stuff, and it was just like looking at a different person. So we saw the effect of what we'd done. And then just creating our group as well, the Soft Hiking Club. We've seen people meeting up on their own terms, and there was a lovely picture that these two girls posted of their two kids meeting. And I think we've got the picture somewhere, but it's like two kids in prams, and they're holding hands, and they'd met for the first time that day. That's not the kids there.
Bear with, this is a live event.
I don't know if you can find the photo, but it's really cute, and it was just just such a nice moment for us, wasn't it?
Cool.
Sorry.
That's okay. And what about you? Real life stories, I mean, I know what you do is changing lives. Can you give us any examples?
In terms of just inner city gang prevention as well, bringing kids out. They could be out on the streets, but bringing them out into nature, and also suicide as well. I've heard stories about wanting to commit suicide, but actually finding our group and having a community, to combined with, combined with, and actually having a place to speak, and just actually creating a safe space, and having some like this.
And that community, how do they interact with you? Is it via WhatsApp groups? Is it more of a face-to-face thing? Is it a social media thing?
Yeah, a bit of social media, WhatsApp groups, also doing community pop-ups as well, to let people know that we're actually here. We're actually in the community doing this, doing the walks, and also health and well-being days, and working with mental health charities as well alongside them, and also signposting, and it's that kind of thing.
Quite a bit to it.
Yeah. So just being out there on the ground as well, not just social media, being there as well.
Yeah, I think that's something you talk about quite a lot. And then you guys are bona fide social media superstars. You seem to have cracked what so many, I hate the word, but influencers, have tried to done. How many TikTok followers do you guys have?
TikTok's 39,000.
I
I think, in total about 50,000.
What's the secret sauce? How did you, get onto CNBC and there's billions of people, etc.? What do you think it is about you guys that resonated where other people didn't?
I think just being real and telling our story and sharing, and not doing the whole we didn't set out to be influencers. We just literally, I wouldn't call us influencers anyway, to be honest, but we just put our story online, and people resonated with it. I think that's social media now anyway. I think it is becoming very real, and the whole influencer thing is not really a thing anymore. I think people just want to see real people and real stories.
So authenticity is
Authenticity,
key.
yeah.
Yeah, and you guys are kind of like the anti-heroes as well, in terms of you're not going down the traditional thing, fitter, faster, stronger.
No.
Yeah. And that's kind of the opposite direction to a lot of what you see. Everybody is performance. And do you think that's a part of it?
Yeah, definitely. I think because we share what we do online, and we share these accessible routes, and I think people like to either do the routes themselves or even sort of live vicariously. If they can't access it, they're at least still seeing it and will attempt it one day. I think that's pretty much.
There was a really lovely comment from a lady, and she was like, I never would have seen this if you hadn't have shared it. So thank you so much. I'm not going to get to go to this beautiful place, but thank you for sharing it. So it's just letting them see it.
Cool. I'm going to ask one more question, then I'm going to open it up to the audience. So prepare your tough questions. Obviously, we're profiling two of the most successful initiatives in the outdoor space, and a lot of people, both here in the audience and listening to the podcast, will be looking to you guys. And you've achieved so much. What next? Where do your ambitions lie? Have you thought about the future?
Not to a certain extent, but just to continue doing what we're doing, but more probably a hub or something. Just to put more workshops on, and also more more of this kind of thing, just educational stuff, and just putting more people through in terms of qualifications, mountain leadership qualifications, so they're more competent to go out in nature as well and do walks as well, and just build confidence,
Perfect. And just, we didn't really establish at the start, where's your following? Is it just UK or is it further afield?
It's global, really, yeah. Obviously, we're based in the UK, but we get a lot of comments from people all over the world, really. But yeah, I guess what's next for us? It was interesting because we were sat in on a talk earlier, weren't we? And the lady said, I never thought I'd be here right now. If you'd have told me a few years ago I'd be here, I wouldn't have thought that. So even if I haven't got a plan, it's nice to just be present and go with it and just see what happens, what exciting thing might be around the corner. So just living in the moment, I guess, enjoying it for now.
Yeah, I think as well, we do these hikes with Merrell Hiking Club. And I think what's really nice about Merrell and going forward is talking about accessibility. You need money and insurance to be a mountain guide.
That's a great point.
And we don't have that. And we don't really have the knowledge behind us and the time. We work full-time jobs. We don't have the time or money. So I think what's nice with Merrell is they have this guide and they provide it. So hopefully we keep going forward and do Merrell hikes and bringing people in who have never thought they could be in the outdoors before to come along to these hikes with Merrell and introduce them to the outdoors. Yeah.
I think that's one thing I can appreciate is how much red tape there is. You want to do something good, and then the insurance is a great example, et cetera, et cetera. So that is something that Merrell helped you guys with.
Yeah. So they have a mountain guide. We work with Carla a lot.
I know Carla.
And she's an incredible mountain guide, vegan as well. So she brings vegan snacks along, which is brilliant for us.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
She's just she's full of knowledge as well. And I think we love that. When we're out hiking, we like to learn about the history of the area. We like to know little nerdy facts about stuff. So when she throws that into a hike, we're like, yay, that's the fun bit. So yeah, it's just nice to have that reassurance that somebody's there, and if something goes wrong, then you've got somebody looking out for you who's first aid trained, all that stuff.
Yeah, shout out to Carla because she's fantastic, and she does have those nerdy facts, and I love them as well.
She would have been at the festival because she loves the festival. She's in Peru, so doing something much more exciting than
she actually took us out, I think, about a week ago in London and found these little urban trails and gave us a little history tour, and she's very good. Okay. I'm going to put it to the audience. Right, start with that. Oh, the hands are up already. Okay. What we're going to do. This gentleman here in the middle. Do you want to go first?
Cheers. Hi. So this is a question for you, comment, and maybe perhaps a reflection for the audience and podcast listeners as well. So thanks for bringing Marlon and Emily Lucy on stage. I mean, they're doing amazing work. I know to an extent Merrell Hiking Club and Merrell Fund are doing some great work as well. But let's not kid ourselves. You're a marketing consultant, right? Your aim is profit. And if we kind of examine some of the things that you've said, so brands have a responsibility. Well, okay, you said that, okay. And then you say that we're your target market, so you don't need to think about your target market. I don't know who in the audience here has had the experience of going on the Brandwave website, if you go on our team. And if you try to look for the diversity on their website, you will unfortunately not find any. So that's one thing. So if you're only driven by profit, right, you have no accountability. And there's no one in your team who has those lived experiences that these guys on stage have been sharing amazingly. So to me, it seems your work is nothing but inclusivity washing, diversity washing. And I don't know which of you guys as well, when you were booking tickets for this website and thought, 2 white guys leading a session about inclusivity and diversity, like, come on, you got to be kidding yourselves. So, I mean, you guys have said it already, it's promoting diversity, sell more products, to exploit new audiences who are discovering the outdoors and who face barriers traditionally, which Marlon, Emily, and Lucy have pointed to. Other examples of this in the field recently, so the Outdoors Industry Association published a horrendous video recently that's been taken down, talking about sport and the advantages of sport for society, of being fit.
I'm just going to slow you down, we're going to address it. Is it a question or a...
I mean, there'll be a question at the end, and it's also kind of reflections. And yeah, so talking about sport and the importance of sport, but because they didn't have this kind of accountability, it was just pure fat shaming. I don't know which, I'm sure some of the people here would have seen it as well. So the question is, how can you sincerely think and believe that you're actually doing real change when there are the people on the grassroots, the charities, the accountability, who are doing the real change?
Okay, well, firstly, thank you for your question. I think some of it's statement, which of course, you're entitled to your opinion, and some of it's question, and there's quite a lot of different things that you covered in here. But I'll try to address them in some kind of logical order. I think the first one you talked about, the pale, male, and stale element of it, and how can you say that, given, well, I actually wrote that, so I can answer that quite directly. I think that's exactly the problem that is being clearly identified by the governing bodies that you spoke about, the likes of the OIA, the EOG, and they say that the first step to solving any problem is identifying that there is a problem. And I think, so that's been clearly identified, that there is very little diversity. There's a lot of men, but there's also opportunity there, right? And so that's exactly why that there are people and there are brands trying to promote change, and you can look at that 2 ways. You can either mock it and scorn it, or you can get behind it. And I think I've seen firsthand, some of the incredible changes that have taken place. As I mentioned, actually, we have a long-term charity partner at Brandwave called the Youth Adventure Trust. And the reason that we got involved in that, and we do an awful lot of pro bono work for those guys over a long period of time, is because of the changes I went through myself as a child. I talked about physical health, mental health, etc. And thematically here, there's a few different things you touched on. You talked about sports washing, but I also hear like other terms these days, like purpose washing, all these different kinds of washing, like a laundry, right? And it's very, very easy to say that. It's very easy to stand on the sidelines and shout at people who are doing something. But I think I'd much, much rather be the person who does things and is criticized than so many people who criticize and do nothing. And I do believe in the sport as a catalyst for positive change. And, you say that, I guess me personally, because of demographics, have got nothing in common with these guys. And, I would challenge that, because I think a similar belief system, and actually, Marlon mentioned his son passed away a couple of years ago. Actually, my daughter passed away 2 years ago, unexpectedly, and I also believe in terms of a belief system in sport has been a huge part in helping me come to terms with all those things. So I think you're totally entitled to your opinion, and I respect that. But at the same time, rather than criticizing people who are trying to do something positive, I think there's a huge opportunity to get behind and support these things, as many of the people here at the festival have. I'm going to pass on for next question. Hopefully give one of the other panelists an opportunity to speak rather than me.
It's me. Hello. I'm here representing the 2% of the population with learning disabilities. My daughter concentrated here for about 20 minutes and then I had enough and blew a kiss to you all and disappeared out the door. And her life has been transformed through getting into the outdoors. We live quite locally. She is the only one of her cohort, if you like, still going in the outdoors as an adult with learning disabilities, and it's been a huge uphill battle. So my question for the panel was, how are you working on getting to really hard to reach communities like the 2% of people with learning disabilities to get outdoors? The difference in quality of life and longevity of people with learning disabilities is a national disgrace, partly because they don't get outdoors and have a healthy lifestyle. I'd be really interested to know if the panel's got any experiences with people with learning disabilities on their hikes or in their groups. Thank you.
We had a girl come with a mum, didn't she? I think she had a learning disability, and actually I noticed that she was a lot calmer, just spending that time in nature, and actually she seemed very nervous when she first came, but by the end it was like she'd been able to just relax into it, so it was just really nice to see. But my dad, he worked with learning disabilities just before he retired, and he went on a lot of like outdoor recce's with the clients and stuff, and I think I was inspired by that as well, just to reach out to people and ask, if they'd like to be part of our group hikes. So yeah, I think it's important to have a space where people can join us and feel included. Yeah.
I apologize for the drilling noises in the background. I think you raised such a good point, and I think there's more and more research being done into it now under the term green health, and you hear for the ocean they call it blue health, and it's not just because it's got a scientific name now, it doesn't mean it's not something that we've all known about our whole lives. That's why we're into it, and the multiple benefits now. I think aside, everyone talks about medicine and this that, and the other, but just the natural benefits that Marlon talked about so eloquently.
Like probably like because like we include like the poetry art walks and also like the beach cleaning and the tree planting, so like everyone can be involved. It's not just like a slug up a mountain or a hill, or it's just like everyone can be involved. So it's open to all. So these are the things that we do, so everyone gets a chance to take part in what we do.
So we had a meeting just last week actually, and where with regard to the Merrell Fund, and part of the organisation that we were talking to, one of their objectives for 2025 is to coach and develop leaders for groups with learning difficulties. I'm very sorry that the organisation escapes my mind, but if you hang around afterwards, I can tell you who it is. But we met with them last week, and so again, I talk about the discovery is discovering those challenges that different groups have that I was ignorant to. I hold my hands up there, definitely. But we do want to try with the Merrell Fund. It's a small amount of money in the grand scheme of things, but we do want to try and make a difference in those instances if we can. So it might be good luck or that conversation happened, but yeah, it happened last week, and so maybe there's something for next year. Yeah, I'll find out who it was. Yeah.
Thank you for the questions. I'm going to take one more. I'm conscious of time.
Obviously, hiking, sports, everything that we're talking about is about being outdoors, right? But actually, social media is actually a big part of what we do and what you guys were talking about. Do you think social media has been a positive thing for you guys? And do you find any negatives in promoting something that is outdoors in nature, but yet we're on our phones trying to find these places?
That's a great question. I'll put it to you guys.
I definitely see it as a positive because a lot of these places people ain't aware of. So when they see like all these beautiful pictures and on Instagram, and they hit us up, like they message us asking us where this place is. So it kind of like, yeah, it's like, you know, like the fear of missing out kind of thing. So like it's definitely a positive, you know.
I think as well you've got a responsibility online because these places can get flooded. I think it was the stepping stones in the Peak Districts. The picture was just a mess. It was probably thousands of people and just covered in rubbish. I think what I'm finding a lot of content creators are doing, and I think the way we're going as well, is more inspiring people to get out, but not giving away postcodes or how to get there, more teaching people how to find it themselves. So teaching people how to look for routes in their areas, how to use Trainline app, for example, rather than actually pinpointing exactly where this tiny little green space is that then gets flooded with people. So I think you do have to be really careful with probably more your message online rather than actual physical spaces.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think social media is a channel. You know, there's so many. There's post was a channel. Once upon a time, what matters is who's at the other end of that channel and the messages that they're trying to convey. I think, and you're going to get positive ones, and you're going to get negative people as well. Okay, that's all we have time for. I just want to reflect on some of the stuff that I took from this. You guys talk so eloquently, all of you, about your purpose and how important that was. I think that always seems to be the starting point. You said there has to be a catalyst, there has to be a purpose, and then you create a strategy and you have the tactics beneath that. And that I think came really clearly from all of you. I think sport, the outdoors as a catalyst for positive change, physically, mentally, society, seem to be a theme that's come out a lot. I think barriers and, assumption, Johnny talked about that. It's so easy just to, assume they're not there, but that doing that insight work and really understanding, what it is you're trying to change. And then, the great work you do as well, the initiatives that you guys have done is so much more than just the physical. And the mental element to it is actually where the real change happens. The physical is just a route to it. And that's, pretty incredible what you guys have done. I think I want to do a little call to action and say that if there are any charities here or any women's hiking clubs that want to have a chat with Merrell about getting some support, please have a chat with Johnny. He'll be around for a little bit afterwards. And also I just want to say to our panelists here as well, I'm aware that some really fantastic brands in the room, and anybody who wants to talk to these guys, I'll try and hold them for a little bit afterwards if you want to get involved in any way and support them. And that really just is about time for me to wrap it up and just say thank you to everybody. Thank you again to the fantastic Kendal Mountain Festival for hosting us. Thank you to my fantastic panelists. And lastly, thank you to all of you guys for all of your questions. Very much appreciated. Cheers.